Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Mission Atmosphere 16. Am I the a-hole for cutting my wife's stepmother off from my kids until she deletes her Instagram account? My wife and I have 2 children, 8 male and 5 female, and we're expecting a third. Since our eldest was born, we have been clear and consistent about not wanting pictures of them posted online. It was my wife's idea, but still a mutual decision. Most of our friends and family have no problem with that, but we've had problems with my wife's stepmother. She has, on several occasions, posted photos of our children on her Instagram account without our consent. Most are harmless, pictures of her with them or family photos with more people in them. However, there have been a few times she took pictures of the kids behind their backs and posted them. Every time we see a photo of our children on her Instagram page, we tell her to delete it. She always does, but the next time she sees them, it happens again. We have been having this discussion with her since our daughter was born. She never listens. Anyway, my family spent New Year's Eve at a rented beach house with some of my wife's paternal family. We returned home on January 1st. That same day, my wife's stepmother posted several pictures from the trip. Buried between them were 3 photos of our kids on the beach. They're both wearing swimsuits and, except for one of the pictures, don't seem aware they're being photographed. My wife and I talked and we both agreed we've given her stepmother enough chances. And as long as she's active on social media, she will continue posting pictures of our children without our consent. We called her yesterday and said that she won't be allowed to see our kids unless she deletes her Instagram account. That means she won't have any contact with them, receive pictures, or be invited to their events. She cried during the call and tried to promise us she would delete the New Year's Eve posts and never do anything like this again. But we told her we can't trust her. She can keep her account if she wants to, but she won't be allowed near our kids if she does. My father-in-law, who is also against posting pictures of children on social media, called my wife last night. He agreed that her stepmother crossed a line, but said cutting her off from our children was an exaggeration. He said she has just started to make money with social media, but she also loves our kids very much, and it's cruel to force her to choose. I don't think we're in the wrong here, but I'm still worried we're taking this too far. Am I the a-hole? Well, OP, when it comes to protecting your kids, no, you're not the a-hole. However, I do think that asking her or trying to force her to delete her account goes beyond what you can do. If I was in your shoes, I would simply cut her off from my kids, period. No, if you do this, then this. No, you've already had this conversation too many times with her and she refuses to listen. So now consequences, which should have been the premise from the get-go. After the first photo went up, you should have told her, take it down, never post more pictures or you're never seeing my kids again. And that's it. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Canyony Moon says, not the a-hole. Quote, she's just started making money off of social media, end quote. Translates in my mind to, she knows that posting kids will help with engagement and pay more, and I would never allow that. Stand your ground. You've given her a choice. Since she won't accept it, you can now give her a deadline or you'll make the choice for her, permanently. Turmeric Ping says, not the a-hole. She doesn't get to make money off of violating your kids' privacy. Doubtless pictures of the kids get her good engagement, and the rush this gives her makes it impossible to resist. It may be cruel to force her to choose, but you have no reasonable recourse other than to do so. Even if she does delete her account, she may make another and start again, so you'll need to watch her like a hawk when she's around them. Hungry Goose 492 says, you've been telling her to stop doing this for 5 years? Not the a-hole. And Opie responds, she started doing this around the same time my daughter was born. She eased up during the pandemic, though it was probably because we barely sent her pictures of them then, but went back to it as soon as she started seeing the kids again. Don't Give a Toss says, makes money off social media? What the F? So she may even be using the photos as content on her account? Personally, I wouldn't want her to delete her Instagram account, but I would confiscate her phone whenever she visited and not get it back till she isn't in the car. Some people have no effing boundaries, do they? And Mela777 says, "Not the a-hole. If you want to compromise, perhaps her photo-taking devices could be given into the care of your wife or your father-in-law for the duration of your visit. But it's been 5 years and she has had constant reminders and still doesn't respect your children's privacy and your parenting choices." The community agrees that OP and his wife are not a-holes for demanding this, but they also do give OP some other choices as to how to handle this, like confiscating the phone and not giving it back to her. So now, let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. Hey folks, I thought I'd give you an update, but first, I think I need to give more details since some of you seemed to be confused in the comments. My wife's stepmother is 45. I'm not bullying the elderly here. She has 60,000 followers on Instagram. Her Instagram account is not focused solely on my children. She started out as a lifestyle blogger a few years ago. She started posting family stuff as well, and now at least half of her content revolves around that. She tries to post pictures of my kids every time she takes them. Almost every time we see her, she posts a new picture. She has also posted more photos of my daughter than of my son. Both me and my wife are on Instagram, but not very actively. She has a private account and another one for her job. I only have my personal account, in which I rarely post anything. Neither of us have ever posted our children's faces in any of these accounts. My wife doesn't see her stepmother as a parent. She started dating my father-in-law when my wife was 20, and they're not very close. My children don't see her as a grandmother either. This isn't about me looking for a reason to cut ties with my in-laws. I get along very well with my wife's father, and besides her behavior concerning social media, I have no problem with her stepmother. I really shouldn't have to explain why me and my wife don't want pictures of our kids online. If you are a parent who has no problem with others posting photos of your kids, that's fine. I'm not here to change your mind, nor would I attempt to if I were. Your decisions regarding your children are your own, as are mine. None of us live in the United States. I read your comments and talked things through with my wife. As upset as we are about this, we feel the need to deal with it fairly. So, we have to take into consideration that 1. Her stepmother's account is not focused solely on our children, and 2. We had never threatened her with loss of contact before, so our ultimatum might have been too sudden. That said, we're still not comfortable with our children being posted on social media, and we regret not effectively stopping this sooner. So, however we moved forward, we need to make it clear that we are serious about this boundary. A few days ago, my wife and I met her father and stepmother at their place. We left the kids with my wife's mother. We sat them down and told them we'd retract the ultimatum, but we don't trust her stepmother not to sneak pictures of our children again, since even after telling her repeatedly to stop doing it, she would find ways to do it while we supervised. She once took a picture of my daughter while she was pretending to text her mother. So, we decided to propose something many of you suggested. A no-phone policy, which we would all abide by whenever my wife's stepmother saw our kids. She also would no longer receive any pictures of them from anyone, and if she ever posted a photo of our children anywhere again, then we would cut her off from them. My father-in-law agreed right away, but his wife got offended. She said we couldn't control how she used her phone. She tried to promise us she'd stop posting the kids again, but we said no. We can't trust her anymore, and we have no intention of giving her more chances. The 4 of us had an argument about this. My father-in-law mostly took our side. It lasted a while. My wife's stepmother started by apologizing, but eventually started trying to defend herself. She told us she always thought we were overreacting and that lots of people post pictures of their children online every day without any problems. We asked her why she was so insistent on posting pictures of our kids. She tried to dodge the question at first, but she admitted that posts with the kids got more engagement. She used the New Year's post as an example. It was only up for a little over 24 hours before she took it down, but she claimed it was one of her most successful posts ever. When I asked her why she thought that had happened, she said it was because the kids looked so cute in them. My wife looked at her stepmother and said, "No, it's because they are barely dressed in them. You cannot convince us that a photo of our 5-year-old daughter in a swimsuit is getting attention from thousands of strangers because she's cute. Either you're an idiot or you know what you're doing by posting these pictures." She started crying. She said her content was wholesome, her followers were good people, and we had no right to control her like that. My father-in-law was silent. That's when we gave up. We told her to keep her Instagram, but accept she is losing access to our kids. She tried more excuses, including saying, "Some of my followers think they're my kids." That was literally all she said. My wife is especially furious about that, but I'm inclined to believe it was more of a mistake she didn't correct than an actual lie she told her followers. My wife and I saw every post she made of our children, and she never claimed they were hers in the description. Anyway, we stood our ground and went home. My father-in-law called me and my wife later that night. He told us he was disappointed in his wife and was taking our side. We're not sure how to deal with him. Neither of us want to cut him off, but we're not certain we can trust him. My wife just told him we needed some space, and he said that was fine. I am exhausted, and my wife is doing even worse, but we've spoken about this, and we're both also relieved. I'll be fine. I'm mostly worried about my wife. She is 6 months pregnant and busy at work, so I don't want her to feel stressed right now. We don't want to cut my father-in-law off, but we can't ignore the fact it took him 5 years and an argument with his wife for him to start siding with us. Most likely, we'll lower our contact with him for a while. We've still got work to do, but nothing we can't handle. For now, we have 2 amazing children and a baby on the way, and they will always be our #1 priority. Thank you for all your support. Well, it'd be good for you and your wife for holding your ground and not allowing her idiotic arguments to sway your protection of your kids. So here's wishing you guys the best. Take care, OP, and thanks for sharing. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit entitled People, and it's by user ReasonableCat5767. My sister seems to think she's entitled to my trust fund and lied to try and get it. There's a bit of a backstory to this, and I'm not sure what's relevant, but I'm sure you'll tell me if I blather on too much. Mostly, I just need to rant. My 38 female family is a little messed up. I essentially have or had 5 parents and 3 different groups of siblings. It's a bit much. As a child, I was living in the US with my adoptive parents, and a lot of crap went down that wasn't great. So I moved back to the UK when I was 9. I had a lot of trauma and the beginnings of a rather serious drug problem, and so my US dad set up a trust for me before he died so that anything mental health related was paid for and I didn't have to stress about being able to sort myself out as I got older. It's been rather handy over the last 30 years, paying for a home when I was a teenager, therapy, rehab, basically anything needed to help me not die. At some point in my teenage years, I made contact with my biological parents and their other kids and was welcomed back into the fold. Some of my full siblings had issues with this. Fair enough, it was a big change to everyone's lives. My little sister, now early 30s, apparently found it particularly hard, and so we've never got along and have been no contact for almost a decade. This has become particularly apparent in recent weeks after she contacted the solicitors who are in control of the trust, pretending to be from a rehab facility in the US. She sent them an invoice for a 3-month stay, requesting payment to the bank account of a friend of hers in the US. The first I heard about this was a phone call from said solicitors offering their commiseration that I was due to enter the facility, wishing me luck and double-checking the details. I am livid. This is tens of thousands of pounds that she's tried to steal from me, money that she has absolutely no right to. She never met my adoptive parents. She's not owed any money from them. She's lived a perfectly normal life with both of her parents, her other siblings, holidays, uni paid for, no big dramas. And she thinks she can just take from me because she wants to buy a house and thinks I should help her out because I ruined her childhood? Except she can't even just ask, she has to try and steal it. I have no idea what to do about this because if I go to the police, then it'll create even more drama in the family that I could do without. And I feel like that's exactly what she wants. Our parents will side with her and she knows it. I don't want to give her the satisfaction, but I'm just so mad that she chose this specific way to try and take what's not hers. It feels like such a low blow. Obviously, she's getting sweet FA, but what the F? Well, OP, I'd be pretty pissed off too. What your sister is trying to do is kinda like wire fraud, if not exactly that. Now, the good thing I see is that no money has left the fund, just the action that your sister tried to steal from you, but no money was transferred to the friend's account. Now, if you don't want to pursue the drama, then you can just reference it to the solicitors and ask them what's the next step before contacting the police for fraud. If it was me though, I'd go to the police. I don't care about the drama. Your sister tried to steal from you. It sucks that she feels like you ruined her childhood, but that's not a reason to steal from you. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Triceratops and Fundip says, you really should go to the police. If she had the audacity to do this, there is no stopping her from escalating even more. If your parents side with her, that is also useful information. You cannot trust them and should be very careful around them, if not just cut them off. Do not let these people treat you like this. Family or not, you deserve respect. Bidet Queen says, you might not have a choice if the solicitor has reported it as attempted theft. Set up a password with the trust so she can't do it again. Ronan's Gram says, calling the police is definitely the appropriate thing to do. Does she know you caught on to her attempt at stealing your money? Have you confronted her? If not yet, in passing, mention someone was trying to commit fraud against your trust and your solicitors caught it, and there is going to be an investigation into who it was trying to commit this crime, and when they do find out, the person is going to be in a boatload of trouble. See how she reacts and your family to gauge how they feel not knowing yet it is her. And OP responds, she doesn't know yet. I asked the solicitors for some time whilst I tried to get my head around things before they or we did anything. I have not had contact with her in years. I wouldn't even know how to get a hold of her without going through my parents. I might speak to them though and mention that someone's tried to defraud me. Then poke around asking a few questions a few days later and see what her reaction was. I have no doubt they'll tell her about it. Could be interesting. And Slow Mulberry 5802 says, file a police report, copy it, and send it to her certified along with a miniature house and a note that says, nice try bitch, get used to soap and a rope. Edit to add, my parents aren't crappy and my adoptive parents weren't rich. My life has been far from this idyllic situation some appear to think it has. I'd much rather have had a healthy upbringing and not be in need of this safety for my mental health, but here we are. Now, for those of you asking how my sister learned about my trust, my father had to bail me out of a crappy situation a couple years ago, which included getting a flight to another country to come and get me. Obviously, I insisted he accept reimbursement for his flight despite him not needing the money, so he would have had the details of my solicitors and the fund from that time. My sister often visits my parents, so I suspect she would have seen the information in my dad's office at some point. I've certainly never mentioned the fund to any of my siblings. The community is in agreement that OP needs to file charges, so let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. This will be a short update, so this got pretty overwhelming pretty quickly. I'm balancing getting things done and tied up with not losing my mind, which is always fun. Solicitors are reporting everything for me, as they are indeed required to do. Turns out I'd misunderstood and thought I had to get involved, but no, it's all on them. And I'm going to just let what happens happens. I'll be setting up a meeting at some point to go through all of the transactions made over the last 20 years or so, just to make sure nothing else nefarious has gone on. Thanks everyone for the reassurance. I'm not doing something wrong by wanting this sorted, but I appreciate a little less speculation on my life and the role my parents play in it if you could manage that. Smiley face. Well, OP, I'm pretty sure your solicitors are not gonna let this one go, and they are going to find out what happened. And your sister's going to learn that actions have consequences. Thanks for sharing, OP, and take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.